Does anyone here ever feel like they're in a hurry? If you answered no to that question, then you should write a book because you could make a ton of money and I would be the first person in line to buy a copy of it. Maybe the better question is there ever a time where you don't feel hurried? I mean, seriously, think about your week. Can you think of a time where you didn't feel even just a little bit hurried? Just a teeny tiny bit? And if you can, then there's a good chance that you're retired. But even then, sometimes some of you who are retired are actually busier than the rest of us all together. Right? In fact, as technology has improved and we have more options available to us than ever before, we as a culture have developed a severe case of what has been coined hurry sickness. I don't know if you've heard of it, but here's how it's defined. Hurry sickness is a behavior pattern characterized by an overwhelming and continual sense of urgency. See, these are the people who feel chronically short on time. There's never enough of it for them. In fact, they can't help themselves. They just keep going. And it shows up in the way that they perform every task and navigate every interaction with other people as quickly as possible in order to move on to the next thing. They want to move through it as fast as possible, and they get so frustrated whenever they experience any kind of delay or setback. And if you've lived on this planet any length of time, you know that delays and setbacks that find their way into our lives happen in the form of people, right? I mean, it's that person you're behind on 400 and they actually decide to drive the speed limit, which, I mean, kudos to them, that's commendable, but do they have to do it in front of us? And do they have to do it in the fast lane? I mean, come on. And it's that person in the grocery store line that slides 12, 15, 20 items or more in the 10 items or less line. Are they trying to make us go ballistic, or can they just not count? And then it's the other person, those wonderful human beings, God love them, that you find yourself in a conversation with, and then you realize that they have a compulsive need to tell you every single detail of their very long story. And you can't extract yourself from that conversation. And if you're listening to me share those things and you feel a little bit of frustration rising up inside of you, like, oh yeah, I track with that, that's so me, then there's a good chance that you have a little touch of hurry sickness. Recently, a USA Today survey revealed that the vast majority of Americans feel that they are busier this year than they were last year, and that last year they were busier than the year before. Do you hear what they're saying to us? That just when we thought life couldn't get any faster, it turns out that the pace of life is actually speeding up. And it all starts for us the moment the alarm clock goes off in the morning. You know that sound, right? Isn't that great? It's so sweet. No, it's called an alarm because it startles you out of your slumber. It jolts you into the harsh reality of morning. And for far too many of us, our hurried lives are set to the soundtrack of an alarm that just won't be silenced. I don't know about you, but maybe your day goes something like this. Your alarm goes off, and immediately you begin to go through all the things you have to get done that day. You begin to experience a twinge of anxiety because even though you just woke up, you already feel like you are hours behind. You realize there is no time to hit the snooze button this morning. You're not going to be able to beat the traffic on 400. The traffic on 400, you decide, oh my gosh, I've got to save some time. I'm skipping the shower today. I'm going to grab for whatever's clean in the closet and hope it matches, right? You realize I'm not going to have time to sit down and eat breakfast today, but who are we kidding? It's not like you've sat down and actually eaten breakfast in years. You have not. But you do manage to slow down long enough to set the Keurig to fill quickly your 24-ounce travel mug to the brim with the strongest coffee that you can find, checking your email as you wait and praying there's enough gas in your car so that you don't have to stop once you go on your way to work. You are on your way to the car when you stop and remember, oh my gosh, I was supposed to make lunch for the kids today. They have summer camp all week. But you know what? You didn't stop at the grocery store yesterday or the day before or the day before. You just didn't have time. And last night, you as a family went out to eat at Chick-fil-A because it was family night. And so with all honesty, you have no idea if there's even food in the pantry. And then an alert goes off on your phone and you check it. Oh my gosh, it's your coworker texting you a friendly little reminder that today is Fun Fiesta Day at work, and you signed up to bring in the refried beans. Hallelujah. Isn't that great? So you are quickly spreading peanut butter on saltines because, let's be honest, that's the closest thing you can find to bread that would count as a sandwich for your kids' lunch. And you're doing this, and all the while you are wondering to yourself, oh my gosh, why on earth did I sign up to bring in refried beans when I don't even like them? But then another alert goes off your phone, and it's the pharmacy reminding you, by the way, you need to pick up your blood pressure medication. Time is ticking. Hastily, you pull together enough stuff to count as lunch for the kids. Admittedly, it's not your best effort, but they're not going to starve, right? You ignore the other 2 texts that come in, and you make your way for the car. You are almost to the door when all of a sudden your spouse appears from out of nowhere, and they want to have a conversation with you about who's going to pick up the dry cleaning and then go get the kids that afternoon. So you get that settled and you rush out, half walking, half running to the car. You are making your way to the interstate, thinking to yourself, Glory, I have beat the traffic battle today. I will not sit in an hour of traffic. But your hopes are crushed as you can't even get to the on-ramp and you see the long snake-like line of red taillights letting you know that, oh yeah, you are sitting in some traffic today. And as you ponder to yourself, why is the universe against me? Why? Another alert goes off on your phone, and you look down, only to discover you have on 2 different shoes. Don't you wish you could just make it stop? The problem with our pace is that it doesn't just affect us physically. It doesn't just affect our schedules. It doesn't just affect our sleep. The problem with our pace is that it actually influences every area of our lives. A few minutes ago, Adam shared with you about different ways to grow spiritually. And many of us in this room, we want that. We really do want to grow. But where do you begin with a jam-packed, hurried life? Well, John Ortberg is a pastor of a church in California, but he's also a writer and he speaks all over the United States, and he shares a story about a conversation he had many years ago with his mentor. He calls him the wisest man he's ever known, and he was seeking advice. See, John had recently relocated to Chicago and for a job, and he was sharing about how the pace of his life had been increasing. And he started by talking about, it's not just a relocation to a new city, and it's also that I've got to develop all new relationships, and I've got a new job, which means new roles and new leadership opportunities that I've got to pay attention to. And it wasn't just this half of his world, but he also had he was in a season with his family where he had 3 kids, all of whom were involved in various activities. And he was sharing with him how the pace of life was affecting his spiritual and relational health. He ends the conversation by asking his mentor, tell me, what do I need to do to continue to grow spiritually? And he waits. Silence. Finally, his mentor says, you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. John scribbles it down. Ruthlessly hurry, yeah, got it. What else have you got for me? Because I've got things to do, don't have a lot of time. Crank me out some more, buddy. More silence. There is nothing else. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from your life. John's like, that's all? That's all. You see, what his mentor was telling him was that in order to grow, we've got to go slow. We've got to change up the pace of our lives. We've got to find a way to turn off that alarm that keeps going off behind us. But how do we do that? What do we do? Well, I think one of the best places this is modeled for us is in the life of Jesus. Jesus lived a life of influence and had tremendous impact. And think about it. He was given 3 years to complete a mission that in the end would result in changing the world. 3 years. 3 years. My husband, Al, and I have had house projects that have lasted longer than 3 years. And think about all he accomplished in that time. Feeding multitudes, healing countless individuals, teaching in various locations, instructing his followers, and dealing with the ongoing, continual criticism, opposition, and threats on his life. If anyone had a reason to be hurried, it was Jesus. And yet, by all accounts, we never observed any evidence that he was ever distracted, frantic, or rushed. He was very busy, but never hurried. How'd he do that? Well, his life reveals a pattern of understanding when to go slow. And we see it show up in 2 specific areas. Jesus slowed down to spend time with his Father. Many times, Jesus would pull away from the crowds and go off alone to spend time with his Father. Now, we don't know everything that happened in that time, but we do know that much of that time was spent in prayer. And we also can observe the effects of his time spent with his Father again and again, and the clarity that Jesus possessed around his mission and his purpose, and how he rightly prioritized relationships and time, and in the things he chose to do and chose not to do. But it wasn't just his Father that he slowed down for. Jesus slowed down to make time for other people. Now, you may not be a Christian, but I bet you've heard of the 12 disciples. These were the men that Jesus led and taught, but more importantly, these were his friends. These were the people he did life with. And they were right there with him in the thick of ministry. And Jesus so wisely understood, we're always going to have something else we could do, one more person we could help, one more thing. And that's why it's essential that I slow you guys down, pull you out of the normal, to let you have a season, time to rest and replenish yourselves. And part of that included sharing long meals with his friends. Do you know what happens in long meals? Real conversations about real matters in your real-time world. See, in those unhurried spaces, growth is able to occur. And it wasn't just his friends. Jesus slowed down for the people everyone else sped by. Jesus saw them. He slowed down for a woman who was suffering for years from a medical condition that no doctor could cure her for. He also slowed down long enough to accept an invitation from a tax collector for dinner at his house with some of his shady friends. Tax collectors were despised in that culture. They didn't want to even look at him, let alone share a meal with them. But Jesus said, I've got time, I'll do it. But my favorite part is that Jesus slowed down to spend time with little children. Imagine that, the weight of a 3-year mission on his shoulders, and we see Jesus giving focus and attention to children and was happy to do it. Jesus was often busy, but never at the expense of his relationship with his Father, and never in a way that interfered with his ability to slow down and love others well. We must ruthlessly eliminate hurry from our lives. That's the challenge before us today. So what do? Well, I'm not suggesting that we quit our jobs, join a monastery, and meditate together all day. That's not what this is about. We're not going from, I got no extra time to, I got nothing but time. We're talking about a step. So what's a step? I would love to suggest a step we could take today would be this: to learn to use a word, one single word over the next week. Now, it's a small word, but it's really powerful. It's so powerful that people don't even like to use it because of the effect it has on other people. And that word, as you might have guessed, is no. Just say no. See, if we're going to learn how to intentionally slow down, we got to find some things to say no to in our schedules. We we've got to even learn to say no to some good things in order to say yes to the best things. You know, Jesus modeled this throughout his ministry too. As his popularity increased, so did the demands on his time. Jesus, can you stay here a little longer and preach a little more? Can you feed a few more mouths? Can you heal a few more people? Can you do some more miracles? But Jesus said, no, I can't. I must keep going forward with the mission my Father has given me. Jesus said no. And maybe that's why he was able to stay so busy, but never hurried. And if we are going to begin to recover from our hurry sickness, we're going to have to take the same approach. And what I hope we all remember together here today is this, that in order to grow, we've got to go slow. And that's some good advice for a better life. Thank you.